Hey, Nadina Tyropolis, welcome to the Orgasmic Lifestyle. It's such a pleasure to have you here. For those who are unfamiliar with your work, could you tell us what you do?
Absolutely. So I am what you would call a life strategy coach, and I work with leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, and everyone who is kind of in transition, let's say, because I believe that most of us are in transition, whether it's to a different job or to a different lifestyle or to learn more about ourselves. And I work on life strategy with them, which means that we create a plan for their life
Mhm.
they can then go and use. And I work on pillars of understanding yourself better first before you can start going outside. So mastering the inside before you can go master anything that's happening outside.
Is this focused on corporate clients or private or personal life or all areas?
Yeah, all areas. I do have workshops that I do with corporate clients and I use different techniques. I'm very playful in general and I love to play. You've seen it also being part of one of the workshops that I've done. So when I work with corporate workshops, I work with Lego with a technique called Lego Serious Play, which is super fun and really exciting and really gets everyone on the same side on the table. And then I work a lot with one-on-ones. So people who might be going through midlife crisis, what we call today midlife crisis, which is very different versus 40 years ago when our parents were going through it. I work with executives that want to lead with more impact. I work with entrepreneurs that are trying to build businesses that are authentically aligned with who they are and that their messaging is aligned with what they speak outward to the world, but what also happens behind the scenes. So yeah, I have quite a variety of clients, I have to say, which I'm very proud of, and I'm super happy about that.
So I'm curious, how can we learn to be better performers and achievers through Lego?
Yeah, definitely. So Lego Serious Play is a technique that was developed from the Lego toy company that we all know, and probably at some point in our life we've all played with Legos. And the way that it works is that I bring together formation depending on what the question is that they have posed to me in the beginning of creating the workshop. So it could be something like, we have conflict in our leadership team and we don't know how to solve it. It could be we're doing a merger and we want to bring two companies together and we don't know how to really do the merger. It could be restructure, it could be strategy for the next year, it could be budget discussion. So very strategic topics per se. And then what happens is that I will bring in my Lego sets, and then everyone on the table. So you have sometimes, let's say you have the bossy CEO who has most of the voice at a table, usually because he is the CEO. Sometimes you might have someone who's a little bit more timid, which might be the sales manager, and he's sitting on the corner, he's more timid. Maybe you have HR who wants to keep everyone happy. But what happens then is that when you're working solely with your hands, and you don't have any big presentations, you don't have anything to prove. Everyone's model is as powerful as anyone else's model. So all models are, have the same power. Then something magical really happens there because when you start building and your hands connect 70% more to that subconscious part of your brain, things start coming out and you start connecting to your creativity. You start connecting to new ideas. And then everyone starts building their individual models. And then, depending on what the theme is, you bring all these models inside into one unique model. And that's how strategy is formed by everyone's ideas having the same percentage and percent gravity, better to say. And it's really beautiful. So I tend to go quite deep into these, and I tend to really work on the subconscious of what's happening with each team member. So you will see people crying in the
Wow.
when they
Crying
go.
through Lego play. Interesting.
Yeah, you will
Wow.
see, because, they've built maybe their identity and how they see themselves.
Mhm.
And you ask someone else to build that identity on how someone else sees them. And then
Mm.
when they see how all other people see them, they get very emotional. Or when they're explaining their identity, and then, there's a little piece here that is a blue piece, and you go, of course, as a facilitator, I'm trained to see and read below all the energy of all the bricks that they're putting in, and you'll ask, okay, what about this little brick here? What does it represent? And they're like, yeah, it represents my emotions, blah, blah. Okay, why is it behind a wall? Oh, yeah, because I tend to be quite close. Why is the wall this color? Oh, because it represents my mom. Oh,
Oh,
no, I
okay.
can't believe it. So these things happen and you never expect it. And and when executives or entrepreneurs or people walk in and they see it, they never expect that it goes that deep. But
Mm,
it does. And then everyone walks away with a deeper understanding of each other. And everyone
mm.
walks away with a solid strategy that they have created. And it's not just a piece of paper or a PowerPoint that sits somewhere. They've actually lived it through this shared model.
So what inspired you to follow this path?
Of Lego Serious Player or coaching in general?
Both. Because I mean, you made a
Yeah,
big transition.
yeah, it was a big transition for me. It's been in the making for about 10 years, I have to say. And the truth of the matter is that I worked 15 years in corporate. And in these 15 years, I worked for massive brands. I worked for Adidas for 9 years. I worked for Gucci, for Sephora. I've lived in 7 countries. I've traveled all around the world. And I had a really good corporate career. My last job in Gucci, I was in the headquarters in Milan. I had an amazing team, I had an amazing salary, I had everything you could ever imagine. But there was this really big piece that I was missing. So I was successful on paper, the Instagram life looked amazing, from the red carpet to fashion shows to traveling all around the world, waking up one morning in Korea, like incredible. But inside of me, I was really missing that fulfillment. And what I figured out also was that in the last 10 years, I've been very curious. Curiosity is one of my values. And through this curiosity, I've worked with coaches, mentors, healers, shamans, therapists, you name it. And through that process, I learned that fulfillment for me was very important. So it wasn't only important to have that Insta life, let's say the perfect life, and that's how I kind of transitioned into coaching because through everything that I worked on in the last 10 years, I realized that in this time, very naturally, I learned how to hold space for others. And because I went through that transition, which is a lot of what I work, and I didn't have a life strategy, I was just working day in, day out on things. Um, can you hear the noise? It's very annoying.
No, it's fine. Don't worry about it. We'll have edited after.
Good. If it gets annoying, let me know and I'll put my headphones on. So I learned, as I was saying, I learned through this time to hold others. And I learned that I love that. And I love
Mm,
being a coach. And I love to find and help others find that solution to whatever it is that they are challenged with. And that's kind of happened completely naturally. I remember I walked one day into my boss's office in Gucci and I told him, I quit. He's like, where are you going? You have another job. Who is it? Which brand is taking you? I'm like, no brand. And he's like, but what are you doing? I'm just going solo. And he's like, no, come on. Like after 15 years, this career, this position, everything that you have. And I was like, yes. And I don't regret it because the truth was that I was living in value misalignment for as long as I was in that space of working for someone else and fulfilling values that were not mine.
mm,
I was working on values of recognition, of a constant challenging environment. I was working on resilience. I was working on these things, but none of these are actually my values. My personal values are freedom. My
mm.
personal values are creativity. My personal values are service, are curiosity. These sort of things that now, as I coach, I can embody them every single day in my
Mm.
work.
I think it's very common that we get distracted by busyness because when we're busy, we're not really facing ourselves, and just where we are in life. I know I've suffered a lot with that. I'm a recovering workaholic, and sometimes I've really suffered at times like on Sundays or at Christmas when you're not working and you don't have all those emails and you're like, what is my life outside work? What's my identity outside work? Did you have a plan, or would you like to talk about that? Is that something that you experienced?
Definitely. I think one of the things also that was really important for me when I did this, when I made this transition, was to reprogram my mind on everything, almost
Mm,
everything I believed. What do I mean? So I had to reprogram my mind on what it means to work.
Mm,
because up until then, my mind was programmed to think that work means 12 hours a day at a desk in an office.
hmm.
Reprogram completely what that means. I had to reprogram my relationship with money because when you work in a corporate environment and you have a job, day in, day out, no matter what happens, you will get your salary. You will get paid for that day that you're working. Whereas when you're an entrepreneur, you also know it, it's very different. The way that the relationship with the money and the relationship with how you get paid and that almost energy exchange is completely different. I had to completely work on that as well. And I had to work on also what success means because social conditioning is so strong and we have been taught that success means having a job, maybe having two kids. I'm almost 40 now. So having two kids by the age you're 40, working for someone else. Success means a specific number in your bank account. So I had to completely rework everything that had to do with that mindset and what I believe for these things. That was quite difficult because we have the social conditioning and everything around us is sort of built in that way to support that social conditioning. So if you go to someone and you say, my 15-year career as a marketing executive, I'm giving it up. Are you crazy? Like I remember my parents are like,
And you had
why?
no plan at all. Did you have a plan, or did you just want to like kind of like have
No
time just to
plan.
think at
Zero
first?
plan. Zero plan. I had
Mm,
already worked on on parallel. I had worked on getting all my qualifications. I did a neuro-linguistic programming certification. I got certified with ICF. I got a PCC Master Coach certification. I worked a lot with other things just to, build a
right.
little bit of a library of certifications. And I knew I wanted to go towards that direction, but I didn't have clients.
Mm,
I didn't have a business. I didn't have a website. I didn't have anything apart from the certifications and my life experience and a very strong passion to help others and my knowledge through everything that I had experienced. So yeah, so I just thought that I jumped down without a parachute.
Well, I guess a lot of people in probably would be, envious, not envious. I like the Spanish expression "envidia sana," like healthy envy, which you don't really have that in English.
Yeah.
But I think a lot of people dream of that. I know a lot of people who are successful in corporate, but they have this alternative dream, which is very different, you know. And it's all about, what will others think, and a lot of status is very important in that world. From what I see. So it's
Yeah.
knowing when is the right time. Did you know when the right time was? Was it just like
Yeah.
when was the right time to make that? What advice would you give to someone who's in that position?
That's a really good question. And I think that we tend to quiet down our internal voice
Mm,
and dial up the external
mm,
voices. And it comes to a stage that that is no longer possible. For me, it
mm.
was extremely clear because I started getting eczema on my face. I couldn't
Wow.
sleep very well at night. So my body was reacting to everything that was happening and it was screaming no. I remember dreading waking up on Monday morning. I remember it's quite sad actually. There was moments that were quite sad. I would be in a meeting, give it my all because I'm a very positive person. I love my team and I wanted to be there to support my team. So I would be in meetings. Yes, come on, guys. Okay, what's happening this month? How are the results? I would close the meeting and I'd have maybe 10 minutes between meetings and I would just close the meeting and I'd start crying and bawling my eyes out.
Mm,
But I would only give myself 8 minutes to do that because in the 2 minutes that were left, I had to go to the bathroom, put some makeup
mm,
on, come back, and then, smile again. Okay, hey, I'm so happy to see everyone. Come on, let's get into the meeting. What's happening? What are the ideas for this week? And I think that's what I understood. If I had to give some advice to someone on when the right moment is first identify what are your fears.
mm,
So first identify what is it that is really holding you back? Where is it that you can sort of feel it in your body? Because our
mm,
body always will tell us what is happening. There are always signs with that. So I think that's the advice also. And there is no perfect moment. Don't wait
mm,
for the perfect moment. Create the perfect moment. So
mm.
ready is not a timing, ready is a feeling.
That's a great quote. I love
Yeah.
that. Do you love Mondays now?
I love Mondays. I love
Me
every day.
too.
Like, Mondays are amazing. I'm like, okay, I'm excited to get into it. What do I
Yeah.
have this week? And I also love midnights,
Mm,
and I love all these things that I used to dread and hate.
mm,
Messages on a Saturday from a client that, I don't know, just finished their week and they have to share a big success with me. And I'm like, let me open
mm,
this message versus, oh no, what does this person want from me now? So yeah, I'm quite happy and
mm,
making presentations for companies that they want to bring together their staff and bring together the teams. Really excited to bring that. And it's just the passion that goes into the work that I do makes it all worth it.
mm.
When you're sitting there at 12 a.m. in the morning writing an article that you want to publish, or writing an article from let's say a newspaper that's asked you your opinion on something, you're like, yeah, I'm here,
Mm.
I'm doing it. So that makes a big difference.
So something I've found is that the kind of energy that we use to work is very different. For example, I've been doing what I do for 16 years now, and I'm just so thrilled that, I created it myself, and I get emails who are asking me, to make content that's paid for something that I created. I just feel, well, yeah, I created this, and just feel a real buzz. I love the hustle. And I remember in the times of my journey where some people have asked me to do some work that wasn't related to what I do, but I needed the money. So I kind of like had a day rate. And I just remember one day, I think I was doing voiceover and translation for some 22 at project, and it was all about sustainability and blah, blah, blah. I just felt so drained. And I was thinking, because it's like, it sounds a bit bad, like OPS, like other people's shit. Like I just felt it was real OPS, like it's getting money for someone else's project. And it just felt like, the money goes. So I didn't feel like, I just felt like I was giving all this energy and it wasn't I didn't feel like I was receiving anything apart from a day rate, which wasn't great. But I just feel there's a different, like for example, Fridays, I used to be absolutely worn out, and I used to sleep till 2 p.m. on Saturdays. I was just absolutely exhausted. Whereas now I have way more energy than 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
And I think also when you're first getting started, that will happen. When you're
mm,
first getting started and you're in that transition phase again,
mm,
it will happen. So I remember when I first got started, I did sessions for free, and I, did things that I was still consulting. I still have kept a little part of consulting
mm,
also because it really keeps me in touch with what happens in the business. But I was doing, more consulting, and I was like, oh, or I was taking
mm,
clients that didn't really fill my
mm,
cup, let's say.
mm,
And I remember coming out of these sessions feeling exhausted, as you say,
mm,
and then starting to work on plan Bs and what would I do here and what would I do there. And another expression that I really love is that for as long as you have a plan B, plan A
mm,
is not going to work.
mm,
So at some point, you do have to jump out of that parachute and start putting all your energy and all your focus and all your effort in what is it that you love? What is your purpose? Where are your limiting beliefs, and why are you not jumping out to do what it is that
mm,
really makes you jump out of bed in the Monday morning
yeah.
extremely happy? And that's the base of everything that I do. So before we work on anything that has to do with performance, and before we start even looking at your life and how we proceed, I work on personal values, understanding, discovering your personal values. I work on doing a regression that you actually get to meet face to face your inner critic. I work on comfort zones. Where do your comfort zones start? Where do they end? How do we break them? I work on purpose. Let's understand what is your purpose and what is it? What is your mission? How are you going to make the most impact to people? So I work with fears, with masks that you need to wear depending on different people that
Mm,
you are around. So only by discovering all this, then you can start working on a strategy for your life. And I know strategy sounds really corporate, but at the end of the day, it's about putting your energy where it needs to be put to be able to flourish, to be able to step into that zone of flow, let's say.
mhm. So I met you at the Cover Private Members Club in Barcelona, and I must confess you're actually the first person in Barcelona who's been on this podcast. I don't usually interview people, but you had I've been to many events at the Cover, and I think yours was probably the best one I've ever been to. I'm not just saying that because I think I've mentioned it before on this podcast, so it's definitely true. And for me, a good speaker is like, I'm also trying to be a speaker myself, so I'm always curious to see how people present their ideas. So I go to all of the events, and what I find curious for me, a good event is when I don't look at my phone. That's the sign of a good event. And in your event, it was highly engaging and it was all about value. So let's talk about personal values a little bit. And remember when you started the event, you said, this can change your life. It's like such a massive claim to make. And so tell us about your values workshop and why values are so important and how you came to realize how important they are.
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for all that. It's really, I really appreciate it. And, it's moments like this that also make me do what I do,
Hmm.
keep going. So yeah, personal values. And there's something very interesting also when you go to workshops and when you listen to other people talk about their work, which is the personal experience. And I think that's what helps people connect even more with what it is that you're teaching or what you're talking about or promoting or selling, whatever it might be, whatever the energy is that you're putting out there. So for me, having been in marketing for 15 years, I think I'm a natural storyteller. I was born
Mm.
to tell stories. And with this in mind, this is where my curiosity also started by trying to find ways to tell better stories. And then at some point, I was like, okay, the best story I can tell is my story. And my story that relates to personal values is exactly that. I did a personal value exercise and my life changed
Mm.
completely. And I remember the day down to what I was wearing, who was around me, how I did the exercise, and what exactly happened. And I remember I did the personal values exercise. It was done as a corporate workshop at that moment with my team, a team of very high emotional leaders and very intelligent people that we were really shaping the business. And we sat and we did this exercise. And I remember looking down on this piece of paper. It was done very differently. I also worked on the card game that you're very familiar with, and I like the gamification part of it as well. But I remember sitting down and looking at that piece of paper, and I just got so emotional. And I said, what am I doing here? Like none of my values are being fulfilled. None of them. Freedom. I was working 70, 80 hours a week, traveling all the time. I didn't even, like, at some points, my friends are like, why do you even have a house, like an apartment? Like, what is the point? So I didn't have freedom, creativity, everything that I would put out with a lot of love on my creative streak would always be sent back to me with corrections, with other people's ideas, because that's how corporate works. When you have a CEO or a VP on top of you, they will always have input, no matter where you are in the world, what the company is. That's just how corporate works. So I wasn't allowed to be fully creative. Then service, I wasn't allowed to serve from the place of love that I'm serving now and the passion that I have helping people really unlock what's inside of them. And then this fun element also, which is also part of my values, I didn't have this fun element of to be able to play, to be
Mm.
able to be completely who I am and authentically who I am and walk into sessions. And then last but not least, curiosity. I looked at curiosity. It was on that piece of paper, and I looked at curiosity, and I was like, yeah, I'm not exploring, I'm not playing, I'm not having fun, I'm not growing in the way that I want to grow. I was growing professionally, but I don't even have time to be curious and to like really pursue the things that I have a little bit of question mark on and I want to learn more. And then when I saw that, I remember putting down the piece of paper, becoming very emotional. And then I went home that night and I was like, this cannot be my life. I cannot continue living in complete value misalignment. And no wonder I'm unfulfilled. No wonder I'm not happy. No wonder Monday comes and I go into panic mode. No wonder I'm crying in between meetings. And that is where everything completely changed. And I completely changed my life. I quit my job, as I said. I booked a one-way
Mm.
ticket to Thailand. And the
Wow.
rest is history. Yeah.
Well, what I take away from your session is that we had all these cards and we had to just choose what our top five values. But there were 100 cards potentially. Were there 100 there?
Close to 70.
Okay, 70. So
Yeah.
what I took away from that, a few big things. For example, before we did the card exercise, we analyzed the meaning of curiosity. And it's so interesting because that meant different things to different people. And for me, curiosity is asking questions, like that inquisitive nature. And that can be just something, could be learning for someone else. It's very interesting. But it just made me, I was thinking of the deeper implication of that about how that can affect relationships, because two people speaking the same language, they just don't get each other because they mean something completely different. And sometimes I've just done some promotional work for this new app called Vuln, and it's for to help couples communicate. Is it with AI? It's really interesting because I think a lot of couples need a referee kind of thing in terms of communication. Another thing I took away from it was, I love money. I have a whole shelf here with just money books. I'm just so interested in the energetics of money. But I realized that wealth wasn't a value of mine because I know people who just purely work in investments, so buying house flipping, and it's just stocks, where they're just looking at graphs all day. That for me wouldn't have that fulfillment. So I just realized that wealth wasn't a value at all. So it's really interesting how what I thought was a value wasn't actually in the top five at all. And just how those words mean different things to different people. And something else that I realized at the time, because I was going through some what you mentioned just now, value misalignment. I was
Mhm.
going through value misalignment with some friendships, and I was really suffering because of it, not quite understanding why certain things were not, energetically clicking for me anymore. And I realized it was values, and I realized my values in friendships are being healthy, being sober, girl code, discretion. And I realized that I was with people who didn't have those values. What you told someone in confidence was repeated. No girl code, no like people getting very drunk and getting very reckless and that kind of thing. I just thought, wow, I just felt this, when you put two magnets together the wrong side, that repelling I felt. So it really kind of gave me the language to kind of understand what was happening in my life. So that's really important, the value misalignment. And yeah.
And it's interesting also because values can change.
Yeah.
So sometimes we might gel, let's say, with some
Mm,
people at a specific time of our life. And then as we all grow, some people grow faster than others. Some people grow in different directions. Some people want to have, put their energy in completely different things. And the growth can be in completely misproportionate, let's say, can be completely misproportionate. Your values do change.
mm,
And I tend to say, because people ask me, how often should I do a personal values exercise? And I say, whenever you have a big change in your life, that's the
mm.
moment. So if you're going through, let's say, motherhood, if you're going through a transition in your career, if you're going maybe through a big divorce, if you're going through, and it doesn't have to be only negative things that are happening, like
Could be a
divorce
health
or
journey as well. If you're on a health journey, then suddenly those old friendships no longer align if they just want to get drunk and you're going to start juicing or something.
spot on, and then your values sort of
Mm,
change. It's really beautiful as well. I've done a couple of value sessions for couples, and I've done a
mm,
couple of value sessions for parents and kids. The
mm,
last one that I did is it was a CEO, and he wanted to do it with his son who just turned 18. And it was really beautiful because they learned so much more about each other. So the child understood why the father operates in specific ways and how what is important for him, and vice versa. And when you do it in a group setting, because I also do this with a lot of corporate companies, when you do it in a group setting and you start to understand how people work, there's a completely different dynamic. So you start to understand that, okay, Nadina's creative. So when I'm asking her to stay and work on Excel sheets, no matter she's not happy. But if
mm,
I give her a project that she can put her creativity in, she flies. Or, Venus, for example, one of her values is um, harmony. So
mm,
of course, when we're all screaming and there's no harmony, and we're all working like crazy and there's no balance and there's no anything, that's why she's like, her
mm,
nervous system is not regulated.
mm,
um, but it's just really amazing to understand. And especially with relationships, when you
mm,
are so close to people and they're people that you have in your life, it's a very beautiful question to ask them, what are your
mm,
values? And if they have, like, I have no idea what you're talking about, because most people don't know what their values are, then have that exercise and have that as a game that you play and have that as a talking point. And it's just it changes completely. And that's the truth that 90% of people don't know what their values are. And this is a statistical number based on
Mm.
my clients and my work. And there's two categories of people. There's either the people who walk into my values. Oh wow, balloons. Walk into my values. That's the Zoom function of balloons. So they walk into the session and they say, straightforward, I have no idea what my values are. Let's work on them. Amazing. They're the easiest also to work on. And then you have the second category that are people who think that they know what their values are within that 90%. And the deeper you go into it and the more we dive into subconscious, we get to realize that they're not their values. They're the values that have been instilled by maybe their family, maybe a first mentor, maybe a first boss, maybe a girlfriend. And it's as simple as a girlfriend when you were 16 told you that no matter what you do, you're never going to be successful.
Mm.
And then you take on this value of hard work, let's say. And that keeps you trapped to your office and to your desk for 14 hours a day. And then you're like, yeah, I'm hardworking and this is what it is. And then the more we dive into it, we understand that that is not your value. It's been a value that you have been carrying on you for a very long time, but it doesn't serve you anymore. And that's
Mm.
where we start to realign and look into, okay, let's look into your 5-year plan. Where do you want to be? Do you want to embody this value? No, I don't. It's just exhausting. Okay, great. Out.
Mm.
Let's work on something else. What do we replace it with? What makes more sense for you now? Oh, community. Okay, great. What does that look like? So it's this beautiful game. And yeah, back to the question of relationships, it
Mm.
really changes dynamics.
Something I've found, if this is common or not, but I found that there are consequences for following your values. I think it's a lonely path, especially depending on what your values are. I mean, for me, sobriety, that means you can become very unpopular. And then sometimes, there's an expression, a friend in need is a friend indeed. But I think the opposite is true sometimes. It's when you're thriving and choosing a very healthy path, that's when you discover who your cheerleaders are, because that can create a lot of envy and stuff. So, I mean, giving up alcohol or taking a decision that's going to be very healthy can sometimes create this break of friendships and support networks, and also so it can be very lonely as well. And sometimes, yeah, especially in relationships, like honesty, when you discover, yeah, I think it's very lonely, especially with friendships. I think that's and also for me as a vegan, I find that can be like feeling like the odd one out a lot, which is really hard sometimes. But I think sometimes you can just sometimes there's a kind of it goes up fluctuation. Sometimes you think, oh, how important is this today for me? I'll just give an example. I met this guy a few months ago, and he's really nice, blah blah blah. But then we had this big, let's say, misunderstanding. And I
Mm.
was feeling a bit lonely, and I thought, do I answer the booty call message? How desperate am I today? Do I compromise on my values today? And I thought,
Mm.
no, this is a terrible message for the universe.
Good. I'm proud of
So,
you.
so it's really hard sometimes to actually stick to your values, and it's a lonely path sometimes. Have you found that? Is that common depending on what the values are? And is it
Yeah.
worth sticking to the values? Where's the reward?
Yeah, totally. I think I also see the values as a muscle. Like the
Mm,
more you train them, the
mm.
stronger they become. And then, it goes back to the notion of what you put out there, that's what you magnetize.
Okay.
And regarding the friends around, I like to see us, and this is also an exercise that I do with people that I coach, is that I create um their support circle. So we all almost like doing an audit of the people that they have around them. I work with circles, so I draw one circle and then, okay, who are these people in the first circle? What do they serve? What do you need to serve? We draw a second circle, which are the people that, maybe they're not as close as family or super good friends. So we draw circles. Why we do that is that because the idea is that if you look at the 5 people that you surround yourself with, you're probably the summary of these 5 people.
Mm,
So if, let's say in your case, the 5 people that you have are people who like to go out, who are not vegan, who like to party, who would like to numb, because there's a very big conversation and a very big question there of why are they doing what they're doing and what's behind it, and if the people that you're surrounding yourself with are people who like to get into trouble or keep going with the wrong people just because of loneliness or whatever it is, then that will naturally also rub off you.
Mm.
So taking a step back and looking at the people that you have around you, are these people that are moving you to the right direction, or are they people that they're moving you towards a direction that you don't want to be in anymore? That's a very deep question, obviously, to ask, and it takes a lot of
Mm.
analysis to understand, but it can be a lonely path,
Mm.
but it depends also on what your values are.
Mm.
So, and how you're living your values. We have extremes, and I like
Mm.
to look at the polarities. So let's say if you have one straight line and you look at the two polarities of that line, and in one side is the extreme of I'm never going to follow my values, and then I'm just going to, whatever comes up, I'm going to answer that message. I'm going to go out. I'm going to, maybe it's people please or not stand up to whatever it is that I believe and not be honest and not communicate clearly. And then the other side is like, I'm going to be 100% in my values, no matter who I'm going to piss off or who I'm
Uh-huh.
going to in my life. It's about finding the most authentic position within this line
Mm.
and slowly move it more towards the extreme end of I am going to embody my values, because then you start attracting people around you that embody the same values. It's not easy. And I think
Mm.
that the times that we fall off the wagon, let's say, that's where we are not doing justice to our values and we allow other people's energies to come in and we allow people to persuade us to maybe do things that are not really aligned with our values. But it's as long as you're working towards that other side of that linear line with the two polarity sides in the end, then it's a win.
Mm.
And for some people, I see clients that I work with that are on the more extreme side, and from one day to the other, they're like, myself included, I quit my job, I leave, goodbye, ciao, this is it. I'm going to embody my values, cut out all the relationships that are not working for me. And then you have other people who are like, okay, going to work on a plan, and that feels more comfortable and more authentic to them. And I'm going to work on a plan to slowly, day by day, go onto this embodiment of values. So I'm going to have the conversations first with the people that are around me because I don't want to cut them out of my life, and see if they're okay with my values, and see if they want to switch and see if they want to be in the same journey with me. So it's about also finding that authentic way to embody
Mm.
your values, that in a way that it doesn't feel scary.
Yeah, well, I find the most beautiful thing is for me is sometimes some of the closest friends I have are people who've been, in my life for a long, long, long time. They don't have the same lifestyle or values, but they still are accepting of the growth. And I think that's so beautiful as well, even though they might smoke or they might, have very different values. But I think that's beautiful as well to have this tolerance of like whatever you do, I'm still your friend. So I see that side, but also I see the other side of like, as you say, that we are the result of the five people we spend the most time with. Maybe they're not like the inner circle now, but they're people who've always been there, and
Yeah.
that's beauty in that. I have a friend I can think of who's very accepting no matter what you do, she's there. And I just think that's really beautiful. Whereas I'm not like that. I'm like, oh, they're doing that. I don't want to be near that. I just feel this energetic. It's like you said earlier, I think we should really observe how our body feels in certain situations. Our body definitely keeps the score, and that's the name of a popular book. But I think there's this like observing those feelings. Does it feel expansive and safe, or does it feel like a rejection? And yeah. And one question I've asked you many times actually is, do our values change depending if it's corporate or private life or friendship, social? Are they always the same? And what do you think?
Yeah, I remember we talked about this as well last year, and it's a really fair question because a lot of people think that we have one personality at work, or I need to have my stuff together at work and I need to be a specific way, and then when I'm alone, I'm in a different person. I'm more relaxed. I can feel more comfortable in my skin, and then with friends, something different.
Like work
So
hard, play hard kind of thing.
yeah, exactly. A lot of people, feel that way that, here I'm a boss lady and then I'm like this super chill person. The way that I see it is that who are you most authentically, and how much easier your life would be if you could just be one person through
Mm.
all these different scenarios. So maybe you have your five top values, and maybe when it comes to work, maybe one more might be in there, like a complementary value. Maybe with friends, it might be one more complementary values when you're alone. But I would personally say that your values should not change. So
Mm.
whoever you want to be when you're alone, if authenticity, let's say, is one, and speaking your mind, and authenticity means I just show up as I am. If I want to show up with all my emotions, if I want to show up and be
No filter.
no filter, or I have this extreme humor that not everyone understands, maybe it's black humor, whatever it is, or I want to show up with this weird thing that I'm wearing today. You should be able to do it no matter where. Because
Mm.
then we go into what we call masks. We go into the wearing of the masks depending on who you are with. And that is exhausting.
Mm.
So if you're thinking that, okay, at work, I need to wear a specific mask of being imperfect, or I need to wear the mask of always getting shit done, or being the person that always has everything together and always has a solution. Whereas in the reality, we're not perfect. In reality, you don't want to work today. In reality, you're super tired. That's okay, because it becomes a mask and it becomes a persona that you're building towards, especially when you work in corporate environments and you're not a freelancer and you don't have your own business and stuff. You're working on someone who is not really you. And what's going to
Mm.
happen is that 2 years in, 1 year in, 5 years in, whatever it is, you're going to look back and say, wow, this is not me.
Mm.
So I have the title of the person who gets everything done, which means that my boss is texting me on a Sunday night to get things done.
Mm.
But that's not who I am. I don't want to be doing this. So you're creating almost like a persona. If you're following different values, you're creating a persona that might not necessarily be you. So what I would do if people ask me this question, or they come and they have cards and they're like, this I'm at work, but this I'm not, like that in real life. So I'm very organized at work and it's very
Mm.
important for me as a value, but in real life I'm not. And then I start going into, okay, but is this a value or is it a personality trait? Is this something that makes you happy? Is it something that you want? Or is it something that you're just doing because you have trained yourself to do it that way at work? Is it a value that you want to keep embodying? Or now it's a matter of like,
Mm.
I'm over it. It doesn't really do me justice at this stage in life. So that's what we start exploring and find the middle ground between all these different personalities that people are many times, and create one person that you can be wholeheartedly yourself, no matter where you are, who you're with. And that is the beauty of also training this muscle of
Mhm.
embodiment values.
Amazing. On this podcast, I speak to some incredible people and they really inspire me. I think a lot of my guests, probably all of them, have something that I want.
Mhm.
And I think, I mean, in your case, I think, you've just done a TEDx talk and that's one of my ambitions. So tell us about that. How was that
Yeah.
experience?
Yeah, I loved it. I really loved it. When I was extremely lucky because I was approached for it, and usually TEDx is a whole pitching process and whatnot. So I was approached in another event that I had, that I was talking about the athlete's mindset for business.
Mm.
And then, because I used to be an athlete, I used to be a martial arts athlete. I used to train in Muay Thai. I still do, to be
Mhm.
fair. I go to Thailand every now and then. I do my camps. And that sort of created this, because that's also where a lot of my values were instilled. So I talked about that in that event, and then someone came up to me and they talked to me about TEDx. It was an amazing experience because it's just to be able to share your story and to be able to. So the motto of TEDx is ideas worth sharing. So when I started to think about, okay, but what is my idea that I wanted to share with people? And I was thinking about values, and I was like, no, but values are really talked about. And then I was thinking about maybe inner critic, or things that are touch more, let's say, matters of the soul. And then, I had this internal battle inside of me to figure out what it was. And that's when it hit me, because I was also,
Literally hit you because it's martial arts.
it slapped me punched me in the face. And that's where it hit me, because again, I found myself trying to think about the social conditioning and what people are expecting and what people would listen to versus what do I bring to the table? And that's exactly what it was. So I talked about social conditioning, and I talked about how to break through social conditioning by using your values. And what social conditioning is the script that we have been told about how things need to be done. And it's almost like this big file in this big folder that you put filters in to get down to, okay, you are a woman. Okay, you're a woman. You are close to 40. Okay. You live in Europe. Okay, you live in Europe. You have this color of skin. You have these characteristics, whatever it is. Okay, here's your life plan. You should be making this amount of money. You should be having this job. You should be having a mortgage. You should have this qualifications. And that's not it.
Mm.
We're all following this adult checklist that was handed to us, that has been written by someone else, of what success means, of what being in love means, of what couples mean, of what work means, of what all these things that you're supposed to have, that you need to have, which are not even your need.
Mm.
And that's how the idea came for the TEDx talk, and that's what I talked about. And
What's
it
the
was really
actual title of it? Is there an official title, or do they title it after when it comes out?
yeah. So it's the alignment hustle.
Oh, okay, I love it.
Talked about the alignment hustle and how value alignment is the new hustle because we're
Mm.
used to hustling, and that's what we've been taught. I watched my dad work endless hours, endless hours. He used to work shifts. He used to be an airplane mechanic, and he worked shifts, and he would, work really hard to provide to his family, and that became my motto. And I work really hard watching my father and my mother, to be fair. She had her own business, work really hard. But then breaking out of that social conditioning and saying that I don't have to continue this pattern is really powerful. So I talked about that. I stood on the red dot. I had some really amazing speakers that also brought a lot of wisdom to the table. And it was really unique because it's one of the few TEDx talks that's outdoor.
Mm.
So I weave that also into the conversation and how nature is the ultimate teacher when it comes to living in alignment. Because you see the tree there, it grows. It knows when to grow, how to grow, where to turn towards the sun. It knows. And we also have that power inside of us without having these adult checklists that we were handed about what it is that we need to do. And a lot of people are really unhappy. I speak to so many people on a daily basis, and they're like, I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I've got the qualifications. I got the job. I got married. I did got the house. I have a mortgage. And I'm just unhappy. What
Mm.
happened? What happened? Why did they give me this checklist that's not working for me? And then we start to rework that checklist. So that was a little bit of what the TEDx talk was about.
Goes back to what we talked about at the beginning about the, distractions and the busyness, how it distracts us from who we
Yeah.
are and just facing ourselves.
Yeah, listening
Mm.
more to the voices
Mm.
outside and listening to the voices inside. And
Mm.
what is your little voice screaming on the
Mm.
inside? What is that little voice telling you that we
Yeah.
ignore? Because it's
So,
the toughest part. So too difficult to do.
so what about the behind the scenes? How was the preparation? Did you have a speaking coach? What was it like?
Yeah, so I did have a speaking coach, so they provide someone that will help you with your presentation. I think also because I have been in marketing for so many years and presenting and making presentations for me was kind of um, a very natural process to go through all this. You have a discussion with the speaking coach, and they really help you, firm up if you need
Mm.
anything. Um, it all happened very fast, to be honest. And then they have some rules that you need to follow from TEDx because it's a global organization and they're kind of trying to ensure consistency across all the different TEDx's. And then you show up, you have, a little bit of a rehearsal before, a conversation. It's quite casual, to be fair. In Barcelona, it is the one that I was part of. It is managed by a business school. So you have a lot of the students also participating in it, and it's a really beautiful experience for them. You have someone doing all the marketing, and you have someone doing the videos, and you have someone doing the DJing, and you have someone, so it's a really beautiful experience for them as well. But I have to say that it was a lot more casual.
Mm.
And even though in the beginning I was quite nervous about it, I'm not gonna lie, because it is a big name, and it is a
Mm.
really big accomplishment that I'm really proud of. But as soon as I stepped into the red dot and I just looked around me, I just felt being outdoors also helps. I just felt this calmness and being really grounded, and everyone is there to learn. So you're talking to this audience that is just like sponges ready to absorb and learn. And I had a little bit of an interactive part also in my TEDx speak, and everyone was interacting and raising their hands and participating. I had a lot of people walk up to me after and, tell me how much they related to what it is that I talked about. And it was beautiful because I also got so many messages after on LinkedIn from people saying that I totally feel it, I totally see it, and asking
Mm,
for advice and, keeping that conversation alive.
absolutely. Very lots of fulfillment there. Just it's a massive reward. So what about a couple of
Absolutely.
questions I ask all my guests? What is the book that changed your life?
Yeah, it's a really difficult question.
Really? Because it's like love reading.
Because I think that I read so many books and so many different genres
Mm,
completely, you know, anything from spiritual books or business books or whatnot. So I was thinking about that yesterday because I know that you asked a question. I was like, okay, how do I narrow this list down? And I started narrowing the list down, and suddenly I have 10 books. And I'm like, okay, that's too much. And let me narrow it down a little bit more. And there's five. And I was like, but I really love that book. If I had to choose and say my favorite books, I would say that The Gift of Imperfection by Brené Brown is a really beautiful book. And it was one of the first, why it changed my life. It was one of the first book that kind of set me on this self-discovery journey many, many, many years ago. It talks about performing imperfection to be worthy. It talks a lot about that social condition that we have and how to replace shame with self-compassion and how to embrace the messiness. Because I also grew up in an environment that I felt that I had to always be perfect and I had to put in a lot of work. So that helps me a lot, and it talks a lot about external validation. So that would definitely would be one book. Um, I think another book that I really recommend, it is a life-changing book, but for different reasons. It's more like a one-on-one therapy book for anyone that can't afford a mentor, a coach, a therapist at this stage of life. Reinventing Your Life is an amazing book. It is by, I have it here. Wait, let me check where it's Jeffrey Young and Janet Klosko. So I read it so many times, it's kind of lost its form and it's full of notes. But basically, what it is psychology one-on-one. So uh, it's rooted in childhood trauma, which everyone at some point has, a little bit of childhood trauma in there. It's filled with tests, it's filled with case studies, and it really helps you rewire everything that you have been taught. And for me, when I started reading this early in my journey of self-growth, I could really identify with everything that there is in here. And I could really see the patterns, and that's what helped me start working on the patterns that I have. I'm gonna stop here. I've got like tons of
okay, can you
books.
imagine? Yeah. I
I'll
was
take
asked because
the cover.
I want to kind of have I just want to read life-changing books
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
get a lot of amazing tips from my guests. And one that was really amazing that you might I don't know if you'd be interested to know if you've read it is Psycho Cybernetics. Have you read this book?
Yes.
Oh my
Yes.
God, isn't that amazing?
Beautiful. Beautiful. Yes, beautiful. It's so interesting. And it's very well
Mm,
written also, because I
mhm,
feel that sometimes when it has to do with psychology, books tend to be very heavy.
mhm.
But I felt that that was quite, it was really interesting. This is
Yeah.
also a really beautiful book. It just helps you really dive into, it's pure therapy, but it helps you
Mm.
really dive into all yeah, all your conditioning and understanding yourself in a way that it wouldn't be possible without getting external help for
I'll
me.
definitely be looking at that on Amazon.
Yeah.
And another question I ask everyone is what is the phrase that you live by, or phrase, affirmation, or quote?
Yeah. I think something that I do tell myself daily, it's not exactly a mantra or a quote, but it's something that helps me a lot with my work, is a conversation that I have a little bit with myself, a little bit with the universe. I do it on a daily basis, and it's something that I do not skip any day. And it's a question of show me how I can do more of your work today. Because I believe that at the end of the day, we're all here to do the work of the universe. And I have chosen a path that is very connected to helping people really align internally and helping people really uh, move out of their brain and more into their purpose of what they're meant to be doing by creating impact and becoming better leaders and becoming better people and becoming more aware of what is happening around them. So I think show me how I can do more of your work today for me has become a very important question to ask myself daily, and ask the universe around me daily.
Amazing. So, question for you, because I know your coaching business is called Dara Impact. What does Dara Impact mean?
Yeah, I love this question. So I'm half Greek and half Scottish,
Uh-huh.
and I have quite a strong connection with my Celtic root. So when I first started the business and I was trying to think, okay, I need a name and what do I do? And I was looking into these Celtic knots
Mm.
that are extremely beautiful and have a lot of meaning behind them. And there is this one knot that is called the Dara knot. And what it represents is the logo of my company. And what it represents, it
Oh, yeah.
represents the roots. Yeah, there you go. That's it. So it represents the roots of an oak tree
Oh,
and represents how the roots are intertwined, let's say, to be able to sustain the weight of this big, beautiful tree. I chose it because I see this parallelism between coaching that in order for any result to come and move forward, you need to work on the roots first.
mm.
And that's what happens many times that we don't work on the root. We work on the branches. So we work on, oh, why do I
The
not have
appearance or something like more kind of external
exactly.
appearance. Mm.
Exactly. So why do I not have flowers? Or why is my tree not fruiting? Why am I not fruiting? If we're all trees, it's because there's probably a problem in the roots. And
Mm.
that's why we go really deep to create that strong structure of knowing who you are, knowing everything that you represent, where you want to go, your purpose, your inner values, critics, all the things that we talked about. And once you have these solid root system, nothing can throw down that tree. And then you'll see beautiful flowers and birds coming and
Oh,
bees and fruit and whatever it is that you want to bear in your tree.
mm.
The only way by doing that is by having a solid root system, and that's where Dara was born.
Amazing. So where can people find you?
You can find me on Instagram
Uh-huh.
on Dara Impact, and you can find me online at daraimpact.com. And yeah, I love to get in contact with people and have discussions,
Mhm.
beautiful discussions that we do. And these are the two places.
So you do one-to-one coaching, you do corporate coaching. So how can people work with you?
Yeah, so I do one-to-one coaching and corporate coaching, as you say. For my one-to-one coaching, I usually do coaching programs,
Mhm.
and they typically last around 6 months. I have to say that I'm extremely, extremely grateful because most of my clients that we work with just get into this habit of self-love because I really think that coaching is self-love and taking care of yourself, and they continue after that. And I have a program called the Alignment Code, which is all about that internal alignment. Why I tend to work on longer periods versus just 1 month or a one-off session is because we are rewiring patterns and we're working with really deep-seated knowledge that you have there and patterns and awareness and all these things that you've probably had for more than 20, 30, 40 years of your life, depending on how old you are. And it really takes a lot to rewire all these neural pathways that have been created that are firing in a very specific way. So, yeah, that's it.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us today on the orgasmic lifestyle.
Thank you. I'm very happy to be here, and I'm extremely happy that I'm the first person from Barcelona also.